Hmm. Good morning out there. Let's check, make sure this works. View my channel. View me. Yep. Good morning out there. Okay, let's check. All right, we're good to go. And good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Resales. My name is Ryan. It's a new year. I got old stuff. I get it from yard sales, garage sales, my parents' shop, and various other places. This morning, and I take that stuff and I try to make a few extra bucks online. So some success stories from this past few days. Actually had a decent sale day yesterday for cash money, and I've got old stuff to talk about and not so old stuff to talk about, but it's still old stuff because it's now old stuff, and we'll go from there. So first up, one sale to talk about. I had a couple sales over the weekend, but it was like 2 days ago when I got it was, and wasn't a whole ton to talk about. But sold this, The Uncertain Trumpet by General Maxwell D. Taylor, hardcover, dust jacket, $20. So, no barcode. It was old book with a dust jacket. Sometimes worth looking up, and I did. It was worth a little bit. So actually, I think this sold a little bit more than I thought it was going to. I kind of saw some comp sales on it, and I was like, that may work. But it was like one or two. But it eventually moved, and it wasn't listed all that long. Only a few days actually. I think I got it in December. It's January. It's New Year. First book of the year. This may be the first book of the year. Anyway, started off right. Anyway, okay. Got that sale. Sold some. Had some Facebook sales. Stephen King books. I listed a couple batches of books on Facebook Marketplace in various groups, and actually wound up with some local sales on some Stephen King books. Not like the real valuable ones. Usually the best ones are the ones like the first, not like the first editions, which are like way limited print runs up somewhere in Yankeeville in Connecticut where he lives. But like the generally available first editions with dust jackets of his early stuff, that stuff tends to do okay. But like it and some of the stuff that got made into movies, actually, I think some of that stuff has actually come down in value a little bit over the past couple of years. I think up through COVID, it was running pretty good, and it's kind of tailed off. Books like The Shining and Tommy Knockers and that sort of stuff. It used to be, I think, you could get $20-25 for a hardcover with dust jacket. And I think those values may have come down over the last few years. But I had a few local sales of some Stephen King books for $5 a piece or something like that. Cash money! And so was happy to get rid of them. Some of them have been sitting around a little too long, and a couple of them I need to take off of eBay so that they don't ding me if they actually do sell. But I don't really pick up a lot. There's a couple of Stephen King titles I will grab. It is one of them. I don't spend more than $1 a piece on a Stephen King book. If you have the Dark Tower trilogy, which reminds me, then that trilogy, but the Dark Tower series, the more of those lot up pretty good as a collection. Actually, sold this one on Facebook Marketplace for $10 shipped. This is a Dark Tower library bound hardcover. Guy bought it for $10, and this is going out today as well. So that being said, it was a nice box of books, a little small box of books to get rid of. It was taking up space, and it had been taking up space a little too long. So got those sold. Okay, now for what you tuned in for. Now for what none of you tuned in for. Or some of you tuned in for. Maybe you'll pop up in a little bit. Old stuff. So, we'll start with Atari games. Because Atari games are cool. I bought last month or so, maybe a couple months ago, a box of 100 Atari games with some controllers. The system didn't have a system. I actually have a working Atari 2600. At least it was when I plugged it in last a couple of years ago. But I haven't pulled it out to test it yet. And there's there's a couple things I need to pull it out for, because I had a buddy of mine. He's got one of the small emulator decks, and he's been wanting some stuff to mess with too. So he pulled it out and was playing and actually tested a bunch of games for me. And was playing around. So he got, and so I got him to help me with that a little bit. I told him, look, he needed a couple controllers and he needed some games for it. So I told him, look, keep. I think I picked out like, okay, these 5 games I need to keep, but all the rest of them, which are like some of the classics, you can keep whenever you go test it. And I think that's what he did on some of them. So. But Atari games in general, you're the ones you remember: Centipede, Defender, Pac-Man, which was a terrible game. The E.T., which is like legendarily awful. The real common stuff you could get your hands on easily. That stuff is actually only worth like $1 or $2 a cartridge, but they lot up really well. Sometimes you can find I actually have a batch with the box. With the boxes, those are worth a little bit more. But your regular titles, you get a box full of 100 games of common stuff. That's $100. They sell. You can sell them in lots on eBay pretty decently, but you gotta have the lots of them. Now, the history of Atari. Go read about it. It's hysterical. It's a 1980s story at its purest form. The business blowing up successfully, then crashing phenomenally. Coke-fueled drug binges and rolling titles out in 8 weeks and dumping boxes of stuff in the Arizona desert, stuff like that. It is fascinating to read. I think I may have seen it. There's a 2014 documentary about like the rise and fall of Atari, and it's fascinating, the story. But what you get out of it is a lot of independent companies, also Atari and licensing and that sort of stuff. But it was really easy to make your own game and produce it and ship it out, and it was easy to get licenses and that sort of stuff. So what I have here is a stack of rare games. This one actually was a little fun. Star Trek made a game. There's a Star Trek game by Sega for the Atari. This is about a $15 game. Works. Let's see. Fast Eddie. This is almost like some sort of like Donkey Kong clone or something like that. This is a $10 to $15 game. These are consistent sellers. Taz. Another $10 to $15 game. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, all these are tested and working here. Junior Pac-Man. I actually saw a lot with Pac-Man, Mrs. Pac-Man, and Junior Pac-Man that went for like $30. This is about a $10 game by itself. Story about Pac-Man. Legendarily bad port. Like everybody was like in love with the arcade game, and you had your, the pizza parlor where you could eat on top of the game and that sort of thing. And then it ported over, and it was awful. It is a atrociously bad game on the Atari, and it was a massive disappointment. Actually, one of the things that kind of led to their fall, because it was so quickly. It was one of those things that was it was produced way too quickly, and was just awful all the way around. Poor graphics, they just didn't use the system to any potential at all. You look at it and it's bad. For as much as for you kids or whoever's watching this that didn't get an Atari, and maybe you're a Nintendo or SNES generation or later, Atari was bad graphics. It was 8-bit, 4-bit sometimes, but some games were okay. You could make some playability out of certain games, and even simple playability. But Pac-Man was just atrocious, and it was a massive disappointment, and one led to one of the falls of the industry. Next one, this is a weird one. Egomania by some company called US Games. So they got a license and tried to sell stuff. So there you go. And last but not least, Donkey Kong, the original, by Nintendo. First appearance Mario. So, these are all $10 to $15 games for the most part. Some a little less, some a little more. Finally, this one he tested, but it didn't work on his emulator, so we got to do some. I may have to pull my old system out. Frostbite, it's a $35 game. 20, maybe at like the lowest is $20. It's almost like it looks like a Frogger type of clone. But this is a more rare but slightly more playable game. So there were good games for Atari. I think it was like the NES system. Once you go back and look at it, it is. Once you go back and look at it a little bit, there really weren't that many good games for it. But they were cranking them out and people were trying, and it was new technology, and it was great for the time. And I still had like 30 games or so, and we played the heck out of them before we got our Nintendo. So that's what it is. Yeah, I'm Gen X. I had an Atari then. So that's that batch of stuff. I also have like another big lot of games there, but most of those have been tested, and we'll go with those. So all right. Anyway, on to the old stuff. Working with my dad to clean up his place a little bit. He's got a shop full of stuff, full of my grandpa's old tools and stuff. And so every time I go over there, grab a box of stuff, bring it back, see what I can do with it. So I got a bunch of old. It would probably classify as barn finds, old barn tools and that sort of stuff. And most of those you'll find for barn tools, and I'll show a couple things here. They're worth about what they cost to ship them. 10, 20, $30 here and there. The problem with that type of stuff is it is heavy. And so shipping it has to have some really significant value for it to be worth shipping. So that's something you have to really pay attention to when you're going through barn stuff. And it's like either you have to have, like, I have a local flea market. Me and one of my kids will go out there about once every quarter, maybe a little more often than that, and try and sell some stuff. And it's a great venue to get rid of that sort of thing. $10, $15, $20 sales on this sort of stuff all day long. But selling it on eBay, it's worth that much even on eBay. You can get that much on eBay, but you don't make as much profit. So I have a stash of stuff that I can bring out to the flea market of that sort of thing. And I've got probably not 3/4 of that box is going to go out to the flea market. I had a couple buddies they're buying. I've got some old blacksmith tools. I have one friend getting those from me. And a few like woodworking tools went to another friend. And I gave them a good deal, and they it's my grandpa's stuff that goes to friends, and that's always nice. So, but I've got a few things here that these are probably some of the neater stuff. A couple of these are going to go to the flea market to sell, and one of these may be something interesting. So first up, this neat old block and tackle. These things only go for about $20 on eBay, give or take, and I could probably get about that much out there. But the neat old wood on it, these things are a lot more use a lot. I don't know how many people use these for functionality anymore. Use more modern stuff. These are actually more for decorative purposes now. But man, this thing looks cool. And there's probably some, you could probably make it work for something. I just probably wouldn't recommend it. The wood's held up, but I don't know that I would recommend it for like pulling big block motors and hanging them from the ceiling of your shop anymore. So neat old block and tackle there. Next up, I thought this one was going to be worth a little more, but I don't think it is. This is an old tabletop. Put your table right there. Sharpener. I think I'm not going to do it. It's not worth doing. If this thing was going to be worth like $100 or something, if it was cleaned up, I would probably take it apart and clean up the insides, but I'm not going to. I'd be too afraid to not being able to get it back together necessarily. So I'll bring this out and probably do $10 to $20 out of the flea market for it. But there are certain, and also there's no name on this. There's a little bit of something here on the end here. There are things out there like this worth $50 to $100, but usually they have a name on them, and they have a manufacturer on them. They're cleaned up, good paint, good original paint, good original handle. Look at that. That one's a little rough. Smooth action, all that sort of thing. So something like this to sell on eBay for a decent price almost has to be in pristine condition. So yeah, it's cool, and somebody will buy this more than likely, and somebody will buy it to fix it up or to put up in their shop or something like that. And the type of guy that will buy this is the type of guy that will take it apart, clean it up, and make it nice. But for my part, this is only a $10 or $20 item right here. So, but it's still pretty sweet. All right, finally, the one on the picture, the one you've been waiting for. This is an old steam whistle. If you read it right there, actually that cleans it up a little bit, the camera. But this is a 4-chime. It says here 4-chime auto steam whistle, and this little section here, I can't read. And even the camera can't quite pick it up. But that says like EJ patent or something like that there. But this other section, I can't figure it out. But it's an old steam whistle. And if you look up steam whistles, they range, and they range pretty good. It's looking like there's stuff from $30 to $400. So I'm at a little bit of a loss what to do on this one. And what I think I'll do is I'll put it up. I think $199 is what I'll start it at, and I'll slowly draw it down, and I'll see what hits. It's not tested, it's not functioning, it's a little dingy, a little beat up. But it's in one piece. A little bit of noise in there. So selling it as is, started at $199, slowly draw it down. It may only be worth $30, maybe worth $150, maybe worth $400, and I don't know about it. Because it's one of those. If I could read the manufacturer, it may have a little more value to it. But these things are ranging pretty good. But this is a really neat find, and something I guess keep an eye out for whenever you're wandering around in a barn. Is getting old steam whistles, old brass stuff. This is brass. And that's something that is actually helpful sometimes, is brass tools and that sort of thing. And there was dirt dauber's nest in there, and these come out. And that's what was rattling around. And I will pick that out before I clean it up a little more and list it. So that's what we got. So that's our stuff today. And we're getting back in the new year, back in the swing of things, back to regularly doing what needs to be done. So that's the plan, and we'll go from there. So I'll catch you next time. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time we do this. Hopefully Monday morning. We'll have some success stories to talk about.